So
What's the goalie doing, Tom? What's the goalie doing? What's the goalie doing? What's the goalie doing? What's the goalie doing?
Hello and welcome back to what will hopefully be a very philosophical What the Falk Sunderland review show. It's fair to say I had planned a completely different introduction to this pod. Alas, the annoying little head of QPR's goalkeeper pissed on my chips just as I was adding cheese to them. And I'm sure, as you all know, Sunderland somehow contrived to concede 2 late goals and were forced to settle for 1 point rather than a much-deserved 3. Alas, we're here to review it and, as always, react to a day of pretty much mixed emotions at the Stadium of Light. We're still missing the lovely voice of Dave Lawrence, who will be back. Don't worry for fans of Dave Lawrence. We are fans of Dave as well. However, first and foremost, we're joined by the regular voice of Brad Sharpe. Brad, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm not so bad, mate. Still a bit deflated, really, but like I've said time and time again, it's early stages. It's about the performances for me, and we'll get into that. But all being well, mate, the rest of it, yeah, good. Me and my croaky voice.
Wish I could say the same, mate. But alongside him, Ross Black has stayed in the What the Falk starting 11, even though there's only 3 of us, after a very impressive debut performance. Ross, how are you, mate? You okay?
I am good. I don't know whether to be absolutely fuming or like hysterical with laughter. Like it's the most Sunderland thing ever, but I'm still like deep down. I hope I can look back at it and go, God, remember that. But when I left the stadium, I was like, what on earth has gone on?
What the Falk's gone on?
What the Falk's gone on?
You could have been a perfect intro of that, but well done. You messed it up. I had to do it for you. Fair enough.
I panicked.
To be fair, it was like, as did our defence. To be fair, it was like the game itself. 10 minutes beforehand, right? I'm not even joking. I turned to the lad next to us, Stephen Barnes, turned to Barnesy, and I went, don't know why I give him full title there, by the way, Barnesy. I turned next to him, I went, Barnesy, mate. I went, it's mad, innit? We're the only club that could get double relegated and then double promoted. There's only us that could do that. And then when the goalkeeper came up, he kind of went, we're probably the only club that'll concede 2 in the last 5 minutes. We're like the goalkeeper getting the equaliser. And then like, it was just total deflation from him when it went in. Where everyone else was like, he just went, oh, he's done it. It's like, it was, in some ways, it shouldn't be funny, but I think if it was like late in the season and like, it was like for a playoff place or promotion or to stay up, you'd be absolutely seething. You can probably pick apart more of the positives, I think, at the minute. It certainly felt, if Sunderland conceded 2 goals in the last 3-4 minutes of any game, I would have probably dreaded doing a review show. And I think a lot of people would have been going absolutely acca on Twitter. And to be fair, there's 1 or 2, but in the main, I think most people like enjoyed the game today and just went, man. But ultimately, it's been like a sign of progress. But that's kind of my thoughts on it, actually, Brad. I'll throw this one to you. You've kind of said you feel not right about it. You're probably in a similar vein to me. But how are you feeling after the result? We're talking like 4 hours afterwards.
It's a funny one, really, because I did say before I'd take a point. I'd take another point. It's a good, solid start, really. But I'm like you, like 10 minutes before the end, we're 2-0 up. And did we look in much danger of conceding? No. And we're being done by a brilliant free kick, which, again, like the Coventry goal, can't really do too much about. You can maybe say, should we have brought the lad down earlier? But hindsight's a wonderful thing. Am I deflated a little bit? We've thrown away 3 points, you know what I mean? As the nice song was getting sung most of the game, we were top of the league for a little bit, and it was nice. And by the way, I hope we stop singing that, because I think the last time we sang it, we were top of the league after the Chef Wed game, and see what happened after that. So please don't sing that one again. But yeah, I'm deflated, but I'm still happy with the performance in the whole, especially the first half. And I think there's a lot more positives than negatives that come out of that. And the stuff that the team can really work on. And I said little things that are going to go against us. and maybe he's deflated the team. That's where Alex Neil will maybe learn a lot more from his squad. So I'll be quite keen to see how we pick ourselves up after that one, because don't get us wrong, it does feel like a bit of a defeat, but we've got a point out of it, and we're still unbeaten in the league. So look, it's a step up in quality. They have to be focused for 96, 97, 98 minutes, and we just weren't. So we'll move on, but yeah.
I think I sort of said in my, which I don't really do a Twitter post-match reaction and like say my thoughts if I can, because like Twitter's for that, but Twitter shouldn't be for instant reaction, because that's when you say stuff that you don't really mean. But I was actually quite balanced, like coming out. In my opinion, people might say I was being too nice or not being harsh enough or whatever. But I think the confidence comes from Alex Neil. Like if that, like someone said, oh, it felt like Lee Johnson, and I know what he meant, like in the way that we threw away the lead. I kind of get that, and I don't think the person who said it was like, oh my God, it's Lee Johnson over again. I don't think that's what he meant. He said it felt like a Lee Johnson kind of ending, which it kind of did. But the difference for me between the likes of Lee Johnson, and there's other managers I can put in there as well, is that became like a regular occurrence. To be fair to Alex Neil, it's happened Coventry and QPR as he's adjusting or getting his side to adjust to a new league. Do I think Alex Neil has built up enough confidence in the bank and enough respect in the bank for me to give him a bit of slack? Aye, absolutely. Has he made mistakes today? Yeah, we'll get into it. I think he has. Have the team made mistakes today? Aye. If this is happening in March, we'll have a different conversation, but I think it happening now, I fully trust that Alex Neil will learn from it, is the long and short of it. Ross, same question to you, mate. We blabbed me and Brad, so but I can't leave you out. How did you feel about the game?
I think it was great up until the 80th minute. I think, well, the 80th minute maybe, but I don't want to be like, say, I don't have a go in on Alex Neil, because what he's done with these same players from last season is brilliant. But 40 substitutions today were a bit off. Like, to me, I said it after the game, I was like, Sims came off 10 minutes too early, and Embleton and Wright came on 10 minutes too late. And it's the first time I've really thought that about Neil, because he's always got it right. Even in the playoff semis against Sheffield, right, make a sub, and he didn't, and it paid off. But I just feel like today is probably the first time he's got it, I don't know, wrong, but he's miscalculated it. You look at the goals we conceded: a brilliant free kick and a goalkeeping header. Like, you're not going to get that every week. You know, it's a sickener, and it just adds to the frustration, I think, of, like you say, a bit of knee jerking on Twitter. But if you said to me at the start of the season, we'll have 5 points after 3 games, I would have went wicked.
Aye.
But it's the way that we threw Leeds away. Like, the way we came back against Bristol City was amazing, but then we've had 2 home fixtures where we've been on top and we just haven't been able to maintain it. And in the end of it, we've been hurt by good quality players and a bit of a fluky header.
I think people are forgetting. I don't know if I'm just getting really old here, but it was like the ghost of Mike Sheeran today, and there's only going to be a certain kind of like generation of Sunderland fans who are going to understand what I mean by the ghost of Mike Sheeran in 1998. Scary similarities for those of you who are not old enough, because I know most people who listen to this might be a bit younger. If you rewind back in 1998, if we'd won, we would have been top of the league. It was a Friday night game on Sky. Quinny scored twice, and Mike Sheeran scored 2 late goals for QPR, pull it back and make it 2-2. And it was grim, and it cost us a place of automatic promotion. So it wasn't as bad as then. So there's a plus point. But I think, you know, in every assessment, there's positives from the game itself, Brad. Like, you know, and ultimately, I think that's what we'll begin with. I know we've touched on like what sounds like a few negatives there. It's hard not to react to like conceding 2 goals in the last like 30 seconds, which is what I felt like both came in, and not be a little bit peeved. But there's much more positive in the cold light of day when someone says, "Oh, do you remember that game against QPR on the 13th of August 2002?" If I remember it, I'll feel much more positive about it. Stadium was rocking. I think the first 45, this is a bold statement, Brad, and you might disagree with me, but that was the best performance or best period of a performance I've seen from an Alex Neil side, considering the level we're playing at now and how good we actually were. How right in that assessment do you think I am?
Yeah, I agree, mate. I did say that one of the lads I was sat with. You met him earlier as well. I said to him, I think that first 45 was the best we played under Alex Neil. In particular, yeah, I'm going to say it as well. I think Corey Evans was absolutely outstanding today. While we're going to go on to positives, I'm going to put a bold statement out there and say, in my memory, or immediate memory, that's probably the best centre midfield performance I've seen, especially the first half, at the stage of my life, since someone let me know who would be better, because I thought he was absolutely phenomenal.
Jack Rodwell, Manchester United, opening home game of the season, outstanding. I guess I can't even laughing, mate. I can't. Best midfield performance since
Lorik Sarner v Liverpool.
Aye.
Yeah. We're going with that. So that's quite a while. But I just thought he was absolutely everywhere. And mate, he's flicking it over people's heads in the middle of the park and then just spin to the other side. And I'm like, is this Corey or Johnny that we're watching here? But yeah, he was phenomenal, and that's everyone knows I've always loved him. I've always knew he had that in his locker. To be fair to him as well, when Ballard went down, I thought it was a strange one when Luke O'Nien got the nod ahead of Bailey Wright. But I thought O'Nien back in defence didn't put much wrong. Maybe he's 1 or 2 passes, cross-field passes went a bit astray, but apart from that, he's getting his head on everything. So I'm picking out like individual performers, which I know they do come into a bit of criticism, but these lads have like playing at the next level now, and they're starting to show that they maybe can make that step up. Obviously, Luke O'Nien has had a bit of criticism, especially playing in midfield, but we've always said we find him a brilliant defender, and he showed once again today. If he plays in defence, there's no reason why he can't be in that first 11. And the 2 up front as well, our very own SAS, a goal each as well. That's exactly what we wanted. So yeah, I will agree with you about the performance, and Alex Neil, definitely the best one, along with some, or especially one performer, is his best game in our. I'd say that's Evans' best game for Sunderland as a whole, and I don't think anyone would be too angry to just disagree with us on that one.
No, mate. I think for me, like I was going to say, the next question I got there was how good is Corey Evans. I've literally got that wrote down. There was points when he was doing like Santiago Virginie flicks over the head of like their midfield, and I was like, "What are you absolutely on? Like, how much Red Bull have you had today, Corey?" But he did have a great game, and I love that he's probably making me look stupid from what I thought was as soon as last March. I love that. I love when I'm wrong.
He's making you look stupid.
No,
you had to think what he's making me look like.
I wanted to touch on Luke O'Nien there, right? So I'll throw this question to Ross as well, but it's no secret that I've always been a big fan of Luke O'Nien, and people will probably notice there's a common theme with the people that I like as professionals and what they do at the job at Sunderland Association Football Club, and there's a similarity between the ones that I don't like. And it's a case of pretty straightforward stuff. Who learns from their mistakes and who doesn't? Now, Luke O'Nien's game occasionally, especially Wednesday night, can be littered with mistakes because he's in the best possible way a trier. What I really like about him, I feel like he probably goes home and analyses it. And today I thought he was tremendous. And for me, his best position's right back, probably. I don't mind him in midfield as much as others. I certainly don't think he's actually a centre-back. I genuinely don't. And I thought, again, he was superb. And when he comes on, you're thinking, well, why not Bailey Wright? Other people said Alessi, but I kind of understood that because he's left-footed. But I thought Luke was excellent today. And I think, I just think he always continuously comes back and I don't know if he even proves people wrong, but there's some people who don't rate him that highly. I really do. I'm not saying he's the best player in the Championship ever, but he'll always do a job for Sunderland, and that's absolutely vital for the Sunderland this season and where Sunderland are at the minute. But Ross O'Nien, I don't actually know if you're his biggest fan or not, or you're in the middle of it like me. But Ross O'Nien, Luke O'Nien, Ross. Oh God, I'm tired. Was great today, wasn't he?
I was the same as you. When I seen like Ballard was obviously unfortunately really hurt, I was like, oh well, Bailey Wright will slot in. And Bailey Wright did warm up first as well. I'm in the north stand, so you see them like thingy, and then all of a sudden you just seen Luke O'Nien appear from nowhere, and Alex Neil pointed him, and I was like, whoa. Everyone around us went, that doesn't make sense unless we're putting Corey Evans centre back. And then, because to be fair, Alex Neil's never played, to my knowledge, Luke O'Nien centre back either, which he had done in the past.
Played him centre back at Morecambe, but he was on the left hand side of a 3 as opposed to the right hand side. And it was interesting that he said in his post match, don't quote me on this, but it was along the lines of he doesn't see Bailey Wright as someone who plays on the right hand side of a 3. He sees Bailey Wright as someone alongside Danny Bart in the middle who's leadership, and he wanted to play a 3 today because of the way that QPR set up in a narrow front 3, and he thought Luke O'Nien would be the best option for that.
That's interesting. But it also then, I don't want to put a negative spin on this, makes you think, why did he bring him back on? So when I know they scored and it was probably a defensive, try to shut up Sharpe. But yeah, back to Luke. I thought that he's one of them in between. When he's good, I think he's really good. But I think when he's bad, he does stand out as being bad, unfortunately. And today, I think he won his aerial duels really well, which is one thing that's a really strong part of his game. The passing out the back was hit and miss. But I thought first half, especially when you had Gooch really hogging the touchline, you had even Dan Neil came across on the right-hand side a lot more. And it created a lot of space for Pritchard in the middle. And I thought that them 3 linked up really well, along with Sims and Stewart running behind. So it is interesting that he sees him in that position. And it'll be interesting how we line up on Wednesday now. I know that's going a bit forward, but Ballard's going to be out for a bit, unfortunately, by the looks of it. So that might actually, if you asked me before the game, where does Luke O'Nien fit in this Suns, where I probably said he might leave. But now, if he sees him as a right centre-back ahead of Bailey Wright, and you put him forms like that, he could still have a full season here as a defender in a right-sided centre-back role, which is totally different to the role we played last season under Neil for the majority. And it's going to be probably a reprieve for O'Nien, especially given his centre midfield performance on Wednesday.
Yeah, I thought he was really poor on Wednesday to give the flip side and a bit of balance, but I thought he was excellent today. I actually was really impressed by him, and I love his attitude. I know like he's, for some reason, a polarising character, but I've got a lot of time for him. I thought it was really hard to pick a bad performance today. Sometimes you look and you think, oh, could this player done better? I thought Jack Clark was a little bit wasteful with the ball, but I thought the way he was pulling defenders out of position was just giving like Serkin and that like a lot of space, and Daniel a lot of space. Interestingly, Brad, I had a conversation with someone today, and I absolutely love when you have a chat with someone outside and you respectfully disagree, because it's a proper good conversation and we really respectfully disagreed. This bloke said, we're waiting for the bus back on the parking right to get the car to go back to Glasgow, and the guy said, Dan Neil's shit. Just dead blunt, and I don't think so. But we end up having a proper conversation about why he felt that, why I felt Dan Neil was good. And one of the things he said was that I just feel he's a little bit too weak and a little bit nimble for this league, and I'd much rather have someone either alongside him or alongside Corey Evans that is a big, massive bruiser. We've still got time in the transfer market. I think it's pointless me asking the question. I think today did show that at the very least to bulk the squad out, we need some numbers. Do you think one of those numbers, Brad, does need to be someone that's big and brash in the middle? There seems to be a bit of an obsession with it at every club to have someone big and strong in the middle. Do you think we need it, or do you think Dan Neil and Corey Evans can carry that starting 11 with occasional replacements coming in?
I did touch on it, I think, before. I said, we know Dan Neil's got talent, but he's going to be playing maybe 3 games, 4 games, and he's going to be out the side. And that's where we do need that experienced centre midfielder who's got a lot of championship games under his belt. Maybe he's around the 28 to 31-year-old mark, who can just slot in there. And if we need to change it, can change it. I don't agree that Dan Neil's shit. So whatever it was, I don't agree with that at all. What I will agree with is he's still learning. He's going to make mistakes. Unfortunately, he has. I mean, but I think last week I said he was. I didn't say he was shit, but I thought he was very poor last week. Today, he seemed to change his game. Like Ross said, he was coming deep. He was coming to the right-hand side. picking up the ball quite deep and trying to get us up the park a little bit. Sometimes it came off, sometimes it didn't. That's going to happen. It's part of his development. He's only a young lad still. That's what we have to remember. But yes, we do need someone else in there who can just slot in and just do the job. Someone who's got a lot of experience behind them. We can't be affording to take the risk on the likes of like another Mccarthy, someone that's young, upcoming, and stick with the model. Like, you know what I mean? Like absolutely stick with it. We have to deviate ever so slightly, just so we've got that extra bit of experience and a bit like just a bit of physicality in the middle. Because like we've just praised Corey Evans saying how good he was today, and we know what Dan Neil is capable of doing. But there is going to be games where they're going to dip or they're not going to be at it, and we just need someone in there who can slot in for a game, 2 games, or even make them fight for the jersey back. Because at the minute, who is waiting in the wings to take that off them? It's like O'Nien, but like we just said, his best position's at the back. Alex Neil might think that as well now. Mccarthy, for me, he'd be going back on loan. He doesn't fancy Winchester. He wasn't in the squad again. And then who are you looking at for centre midfielder? Embleton. He's more of a 10, isn't he? He has sat in alongside Dan Neil in the past and sat in alongside Evans. But yeah, it's starting to show now, especially because, you've seen Dan Neil and Pritchard today. They were knackered after about 70 minutes, 75 minutes. And they persevered until about the 85th, 86th minute. And by then, it was too late, like Ross said. You've seen Embleton was kitted up 71st minute and he didn't come on till 88. It's like, does he not have a lot of faith in taking these lads off? We need that body in there that can, someone's having a bad game or not quite at it. Right, you're coming off on 60. There's someone that's going in there that can do that job straight away.
For me, it looked like Sims had like another, like I say, I think it was Ross, you said another 10 minutes or so in him. Sims thought that's an awful lot when Sims went off. I love Ross Stewart, but Ross kind of drifts out to the wide wing sometimes, and obviously doesn't stick in the middle. I think like Sims does. I would have liked to keep Sims on just for an extra 10, just to keep us kind of a bit high up the pitch. But the midfield is kind of the conversation we're having, Ross, I guess. What I find the most interesting thing is this model that like a lot of people go on about, and I think by and large the model does work. Buy young, someone who's going to grow with the club, and then hopefully we can sell in time. However, there's plenty of exceptions to that. Danny Bart is an example. The fact that Bailey Wright signed another contract is a big example. You could even say Pritchard's an example. Pritchard is more of a risk. Corey Evans is another example of that. Now, I think all of those players that I've mentioned are experienced players that have either signed new contracts or been signed as part during this new model to show that we do need to deviate from it a little bit. I'm going to throw a name at you because he's been linked quite heavily. He's been linked up here. He's been linked down in Sunderland. I think there's something in it. James Mccarthy. People are worried about his injury record, but Corey Evans has a similar injury record. Well, not similar, but they said he was as injured. They said the same with Bailey Wright. James Mccarthy, I think if we bring a midfielder in, will be the one, if I'm honest. I have no prior knowledge. Do you think that's the right decision, or would you go elsewhere?
I can't say I've seen much of James Mccarthy since lockdown when he played for Crystal Palace.
Nobody's seen him for a while. Nobody's seen him for a while.
What I would say is, though, he automatically becomes, I think, I might make myself look straight away, but I think he's the most experienced at the highest level player we will have in the squad by a long stretch. And he's the kind of player, from what I've seen of him when he played at Everton and Palace, that can just keep the ball ticking over. And he puts his foot on the ball, he can break the lines, but most of all, he brings control, and he will bring that experienced head. So let's be honest, the budget and the philosophy we're working under in the recruitment plan, if Mccarthy was playing 30, 40 games for Celtic and ripping it up, we wouldn't have had a chance of him anyways. So there's always an element of risk. But I think he's also got a good relationship with Alex Neil. He played together at Hamilton, and he's still playing for Ireland in the squads. I know he played pre-season for Celtic. So I think part of the problem is Celtic do play a very high-tempo game, which is a lot different to the role he would need to play for us. from what I've read on the forums and stuff like that, because yes, I'm sad enough to do a bit of a deep dive. But I'm going to throw it out there as well. I think if O'Nien is now classed as a centre-back and he doesn't fancy Winchester and Matete, we need 2 centre midfielders. We don't just need one. Because in that specialised role where we play on 2 at the minute with Evans and Neil, we are then going to, if Evans, who's already got 3 bookings, by the way, and 2 more will be missing a game. Neil, who doesn't, at the moment, to me, is a great 60-minute player. And then he seems to struggle when new changes come on. We're going to need someone like a Mccarthy who can play that Evans role. But I think we also need a bit more athleticism. That's a hard one. It's a tongue twister. But we need someone who...
Athleticism.
Who can break the lines and get a box to box, you know? To be fair, that's what we were told with Matete. We just haven't seen it. So we need to bring someone in, maybe on loan from the top level. I think, I know there was a few names banded about who could maybe look for a loan. Or do we need to just say, look, we need someone who's proven championship who can do that? Like someone like today, I know it's a bit different, but you've heard the name Ilias Chair, who scored with QPR on the EFL Quest highlights for the last 3 years. And he's never really went, oh, he can play higher, but he'll never play lower. He's just someone who's in the championship and can do a job. And it's time to, let's say, deviate from the model just to make sure that we are going to be comfortable at this level, because I'd say the midfield is probably the most I'm worried about, because if you take Corey Evans out of that midfield, it's very weak.
I mean, big fan of Daniel. I do agree with you that he hit 60 and that's kind of it. And I think ultimately, not just like in a roundabout way in my thoughts, him being knackered made him make that tackle, that free kick went in. I'm not blaming Daniel for it. I'm not blaming Alex Neil for it. That's just sometimes the way the game is. But we need another option. And I don't mind them go deep. But yeah, I would like another couple in midfield if I'm completely honest with you. Even if they're just like loan players from a Premier League club or McCarthy from like a Scottish Premiership club that's really not getting the game. For me, the fact that we need 2, I think McCarthy makes sense. He needs to play games. I think he's not. I don't think he was a Postecoglou signing. He doesn't fit the way Celtic play. He's someone that lives in Glasgow, is available on a free transfer. I think he was a Celtic fan growing up. He lives down the road from me, actually, funnily enough. I haven't seen him, unknowingly enough, since we've been linked. I'll ask him, and if I get any update, I'll let everyone know. But I can't make any promises. But I would like him. But I think probably the concern for me is, I think Alex Neil said 4 or 5. I think, me personally, I think 6 now, because obviously I think the rumours are, and obviously these are just rumours, like I don't know, I have no prior knowledge, is that Dan Ballard's got a suspected broken foot. Brad, it's a massive blow, first and foremost. How big of a blow is it? And do we now need to be in the market for a defender that's going to start every week the way that Ballard was? Because if that's a broken foot, that's about 3-4 months.
Yeah, definitely. I think we said anyway, we need one centre half. I know we bought in Elisa, we've got Bath, Wright, and we have Ballard. But if we are going to a 3, we always needed that extra man. Now, 9, yes, he'll do a job there, but he's still technically a midfielder, classed as a midfielder. So, possibly 2 centre halves. Definitely 1, and I'd say a proper experienced one. But again, break the model. It's like we done for Danny Bart last year. I know you mentioned the list of players you mentioned breaking the model. They were brought in to get us out of League One. Now I think we need to do it with players to compete in the Championship. Ballard's going to be a massive miss. You could see he's got so much talent and how highly thought of he is. He's got Championship experience, and it is a massive blow. I mean, if it's not a broken foot, which is the rumours going round, you're still looking at maybe 3 or 4 weeks, just whatever he has done to it. So that's at a very minimum. So yeah, we definitely need another centre half in. I'm actually gutted that Ballard's got picked up an injury today, because even when you see him try and get back up, he just collapsed straight away again. So yeah, you couldn't put any weight on it, and that is quite worrying. So yeah, one centre half, possibly two. And I mean, we were saying, weren't we, last week, we definitely need another 4 or 5 bodies. It's definitely 6 now because we've not picked up an injury there. I know he's not really in the starting lineup, but Diaku got a run out last week. He's picked up an injury again. So it shows how quickly injuries can happen when really going into the season, the whole squad were fighting fit. So the injuries are starting to pick up already. And touch wood, doesn't happen on Wednesday night. But if we pick up another injury, it's just going to snowball, and we're going to need even more. So I'm hoping that the hierarchy, Speakman, etc., have looked at that now, and they're working all hours to try and bring someone in. But I don't want it to be a panic buy, because I think that might be a bit. What's the word I'm looking for, Graham? It might be a bit risky. Could be a bit of a risk to go with the panic buy.
You mean like a Joel Lynch kind of signing in the Premier League when it was like, in the League One when it was like, well, he's played for QPR, he's played in Division above, he'll be good. There was no thought put behind it, and he was absolutely fish. I mean, if you look at the free transfer list for defenders, there's players there that you could say will add to the squad, which is maybe what we're looking at. You've got Sean Morrison, he's 31. I think we've been linked to Michael Hector.
I think Michael Hector does make sense. Sorry, jump in there, but because he really does make sense, because he's experienced, he's athletic, he can play anywhere across the back, because he's played at right back for Fulham as well. And he just seems like he covers all areas now, because we are going to need a right-sided defender to cover Ballard. There's no transfer fee. And it's one of them where you just think, yeah, that makes sense. And that's the kind of signing where it does not meet the model, but it's a bit of a Danny Bart, Corey Evans signing where you think they're essential for the young players that we want to develop to fulfill the potential.
It's either that or it's going to be another Jay Clark-Salter, isn't it? And I didn't fancy that. Really sad to see he was missing today. I think ultimately, though, Brad, it's 5 points from 3 games, and I've kind of repeated that in my head on the drive home. That's a return I would have snapped your hand off, be that a draw at Bristol City and a win today, or a win against Coventry and 2 draws, like 5 points. And the performances do have frustrations in them. The goals we conceded at Bristol City were cheap. The goals, how late they were today, the game management frustrating. Not closing down Gyökeres when he scored that shot, that was a worldie. There's definitely frustrations in it. But ultimately, I've looked at the team and I've gone, well, Stewart and Sims look as good as anyone in this league. I wouldn't fancy playing them. Some of the players that I thought could make the step up appear to have done. And it's a long old season, and there's going to be points where we doubt that. But I think ultimately we look like we're going to cope, and that's the be-all and end-all. I know like some of us would love us to go up twice, and that would be amazing, but it's not going to happen. In my opinion, it's going to be a case of solidifying, and I'd rather solidify right in the middle where we've got no danger of relegation whatsoever. And like I say, 15th, which has been my mantra, I think, since Ross Stewart scored against Wickham at Wembley. 5 points is not exactly what we wanted, but it's good. And we were 2 minutes away from being top of the league today. So do you have confidence after the first 3 games, bearing in mind that things can change, and they will, that would at least be safe and comfortable this year?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. It's 5 points and unbeaten starts. I'd have taken that straight away. Unbeaten at home, albeit thrown away, probably 4 points in that as well. Ask me again after this next run of fixtures, mate, because I think these ones is probably the toughest run we're going to have, even though it's early in the season. This block of fixtures coming up now is probably the toughest if you look at them throughout the rest of the season. It was Sheffield United, Stoke, Norwich, Middlesbrough. A lot of people, 3 of them, people are tipping to probably be in the top 6. So that'll be a good gauge to see where we're going to be at. Again, it's depending on if we get more bodies in. I am confident with the squad that we have got at the minute that we will be all right. I think there are worse teams in this league than us, but we need to bulk up the squad for me to be confident that we can maybe take it to that next level as well. 15th, more than happy with that. Like, I was going to go 15th, but then for some reason I jumped up to 5th is my prediction. But yeah, I'm happy. Big gutted on the way that we've dropped points, but on the whole, mate, unbeaten and happy.
Got a couple of minutes left here, Ross, and just to end, I think Brad touched on those games. big games coming up, 2 away games. Sheffield United's tough. That is a rough away game. I only wish we had Max Power to score 30-yard screamer like we did a couple of years ago, but alas, he is now at Wigan. And then Stoke, which I think they haven't had the best of starts, but Stoke away is never an easy game. It's a bit of a cauldron. I don't know what it's like these days, but it was never nice to go in the Premier League. How many points? We were always targeting 6 points, but how many points would you be comfortable with us coming out of those games, and what do you think we'll get?
I don't know, to be honest, because I think with the Championship, it's such an unknown quantity at the moment. We don't know what to expect. Like today, when QPR rocked up, I look at the team and I recognised quite a lot of the players, but then I watched them and I was like, they're not as good as I thought they were. like you see, I mentioned Ilias Chair on Quest. They're saying like, oh, he's a genius and he scored a great free kick. Don't get us wrong, but for 87 minutes he was anonymous. And then you have like teams like Sheffield United who everyone's tipping like, oh, they could go further this year. And then I watched them. I can't remember. I think it was against Watford, first game, and they had nothing up front. So I don't know what to expect. If I'm honest, as long as we stay unbeaten, I'll be happy right now. And I'd love to see a couple of more players in, because I know Alex Neil was very, before the season started, like, oh, we don't want to get left behind. This is now going to be the 4th game since we last signed a player. 5th game, sorry, if you include the cups. So I think now he's been patient enough and he's got enough points in the bag to like earn a bit of backing now from the recruitment team. But as long as we, like you see, Brad's honest, the performances, as long as we keep performing at a good level and we're competitive, I'll be happy. And a few points along the way will be good.
Yeah, I think the same. I think ultimately gutted because you like winning games, but I think a positive one. As always, that's kind of all for this week. I think there's a couple of preview shows coming this week. I might start doing midweek ones just because I don't have a life and all I do is record and edit podcasts. But thanks for joining as always. Subscribe, share, do whatever you want. Don't care. I think it's what you meant to say at the end of the podcast. But thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for sticking with the lads, and see you next week, Brad, Ross, and hopefully Dave.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Graham.